Hey guys, Missing Pixel here. Welcome to the final episode of Team 6 Games Reviewed. So it turns out that I'm not done with talking about Flatout games, as I discovered a mobile-only tie-in game called Flatout Stuntman that I must have forgotten about. So welcome back to delisted, I guess. But you know what? I genuinely think this is one of the best games Team 6 has made. I know! I moaned about the stunts in the previous Flatout games. So what makes this one different? Well, it's not trying to be what it isn't. It's not copying Bugbear's formula, but instead it's a new and creative spin on ejecting out of the vehicle. It took me a little bit to get used to the fact that you aren't aiming for distance in this game, but instead to fuck up your character as much as possible. Hit explosive barrels, chuck the character into some cacti, throw them onto an oncoming train, turn them into a human skateboard, you know what I mean? We have some returning characters, as well as a whole bunch of new ones, which are more creative than in Flatout 3. The characters have dialogue, which while kind of annoying and crude in quality, is charming. As this game was free, most of the levels and characters were once unlockable with in-app purchases, but unfortunately, unless this game is cracked, they will forever stay gated away. What also makes this game difficult to play is the fact that, well, A, apparently the download I got may have a virus, but B, it was made for 32-bit CPUs and targeted Android 2.3 Gingerbread, since this game had come out in 2013. There is no chance that this would run on a modern phone, but certainly would with LD Player, although you might need to get creative with mapping the accelerometer controls, which are used for controlling the vehicle and the character. Also, for a 2013 mobile game, these graphics are seriously fantastic, though due to my recording setup, a lot of the finer detail is lost in the compression. There are some visual glitches and weird menu lag, but the game was made exclusively for devices running Nvidia's Tegra 3. Well, supposedly exclusive, it ran my LG G5 just fine, but if you were an Android user in 2012-2013, you likely knew how powerful the Tegra 3 was. I begged my parents to buy the Nexus 7 for that reason, and because it was incredibly cheap. But yeah, that tablet could run any game with no problem, when other tablets in the same price range or even higher ran games like Minecraft like complete ass. So chances are, even if you sideloaded the game onto your device back then, it wouldn't have ran great. What an awesome bit of gaming history that has been mostly forgotten about. Monster Jam Battlegrounds. Despite the break in development, Team 6 is back to their usual selves with this one. As soon as you get into the menu, you notice the lack of resolution or graphics settings, and the same tired old music. This is a second racing game to feature X-input support though, and it even shows you what buttons to press. Well done. Except not really well done, because the controls in the loading screen have the keyboard still. There are a few game modes within Battlegrounds. Skill driving is basically a HD 2.5D version of hill climb racing. In fact, the Lua script mentions iOS, Android and touch input, so it seems like this was destined for mobile, where frankly it belongs. It's fun how readable the Lua script is, including notes on what each line does. But yeah, I really have nothing to say about this game mode, as seriously it is that similar. And besides, we get to do this all over again in stunt mode. This game mode has various courses that you can choose, and each one follows the same formula, that being a jump mode, where you must fly for as long as possible, precision, where you have 3 markers that you can land on, ranging from easiest to the hardest, destruction, where you have a set amount of cars to destroy, and challenge, which features all of these in one. This conceptually could be fun, except it's Team 6, so even the fundamentals are broken. So you know how this game is 2.5D? Well, firstly, the camera angle means they have 0 preparation on the speed that you need to take, which is great. It's basically just a memory game. But also, if your truck lands incorrectly, as it will, sometimes it can drive itself off the course, and then you have to wait for the AI within your vehicle to take over and get you back on track. Which I guess is intended, but it just doesn't feel right. Your truck can glitch around, which is funny to see, and infuriating because you have to keep restarting. Within each mission, you can gain up to 3 stars, which I use to unlock the later missions. So it's not like hill climb racing, where you don't really feel irritated that you lost, since you still get something as a reward. And that game is about beating your high score. No, here you have to do well to not lock yourself out of the later stages. We have a boost button, which is useful if you weren't expecting a big jump, and you were going too slowly, and you have upgrades that you can buy. So okay, in that sense it is similar to hill climb racing, as you aren't left totally empty-handed for your efforts. The trucks do feel different in terms of speed, so I will give Team 6 props here, for what it's worth. And we do get a variety of licensed monster trucks. You are supposed to be able to adjust your air control, but unless I'm doing something wrong, this stick did very little. Oh, and you can unlock a super jump too, which could be useful for when you get stuck on something, as you will. The last game mode is Stadium, which I cannot tell if it's broken on my PC, or if it is genuinely this unplayable. The concept is mind-numbingly simple. Just drive where the marker tells you to, and do it faster than the AI who's doing it on the other side, kind of like a dirt-free head-to-head. The AI vibrates around and the logic seems to be at a lower frame rate, and your truck has a few seconds delay when turning, which feels really weird, hence why I'm unsure if this is a physics glitch, because of much faster hardware than what Team 6 was developing for, or what. These stadium events require a lot of stars to unlock, since I guess Team 6 was expecting these races to be what kept you going, you know, the cherry on top kind of deal. Since the audio broke when I forced the game to 4K, I will only touch on graphics, which when at a high resolution do look lovely. And Team 6 has seemingly learned how to do fake depth of field, which looks basic compared to modern day implementations, but would have looked nice on the 360 and PS3, where this game also landed. So you know how I was saying that this would have made for a perfect mobile game? Well, it did actually get a mobile port called Monster Jam, or Monster Jam as big as it gets. For some reason, this game ran like absolute dog ass on my LG G5, though thankfully it runs okay on the Galaxy S7. Again, if you're into Android phones 11 years ago, you might find this strange, as the GPU in the S7's Exynos was not as powerful as the competing Snapdragon CPU that is found in the G5. So let's just put that down as another Team 6 quirk. I did call this a port, but actually, it supposedly had come out in 2014, while Battlegrounds came out in 2015. And sure enough, having browsed the Facebook page, they were teasing Monster Jam on Christmas 2013, and the game launched in February 2014. And by the way, I found some gems looking at their page. Did you know that Another Pizza Dude and Manhattan Chase could have been made? Anyway, my point to all of this is that even though Battlegrounds felt like it belongs on mobile, Team 6 had very obviously set out a different ethos for mobile gaming than on PC and console. They already knew how to monetize the crap out of a free game. This game has your classic fare. Practically everything is paid for. You get a certain amount of plays before you have to wait for them to reload. Or you can reload them with cogs, which are the physical currency. Coins? You hardly get any. Luckily this APK has been modded with a ton of coins and cogs to keep playing. And there is no real progression in this game, so you can clear the data and keep going. But yeah, this game basically relies on getting the highest score in each game mode. And if you were to log into Facebook, you likely could have seen a friend's leaderboard to aim to beat their score. The reason I remember that this game came out on mobile is because I'm pretty sure I did have it at one point, though I only remember playing the freestyle game mode. Unsure why. I almost wonder if the other game modes weren't unlocked unless you paid. Let me know about this if you happen to have any recollection. But yeah, we have freestyle, which involves you doing stunts to get the highest score. You only get one stage playthrough, and while it's fine, it gets boring real quick. The controls of course are terrible as it's a mobile game. Like, you can get used to them. The nitro is basically your acceleration, as opposed to pushing up, which makes the truck flip easier. But it's difficult to make any precise movements. We have a race mode, which is even duller than in Battlegrounds. Toe test, which is pretty hard to get past the 500 mark because of the way that the level has been designed, though this is likely not down to incompetence, but again, to get money out of you. Actually, whilst on that topic, there are upgrades you can do to your monster truck, which are coin-based, though I'm not entirely sure if they do anything. And we have a lot of monster trucks that can be purchased, or purchased in bulk with cogs. Hill jump race is hill climb racing essentially. Destroy is pretty fun, as basically everything within the Las Vegas parking lot can be driven over, with physics to boot. It's actually a nice world that they created, and I can almost forgive the frame drops, even if the game came out in early 2014 and is struggling to play on a flagship phone from the following year. Frame Twister is hill jump race with random explosives that are very difficult to avoid. And finally is Tank Trap, which reminds me of that one part of Pizza Dude, except with touch controls it's difficult to navigate. Though an interesting concept nevertheless. Sticking to mobile games, here's Dirt Rider. Yeah, it's alright. Reminds me of other motocross games that Team 6 had made, but with some extra polish. We have a new feature, which is the ability to hit your opponent. The controls are pretty tight as far as mobile gaming goes, and really does remind me of the PC counterpart. There are fun little jokes scattered throughout, and the game also looks great, though it is obvious that it's an Engine 6 title. And even the music's fine. Unfortunately, much of the game can no longer be played, as it required an in-app purchase, which is a shame because this is one of the better Team 6 titles in my opinion. Four-wheeler. Yeah, I'm not feeling this one. It's a tight racing game, with a lot of precise control needed, which means that you quickly lose feel of where the on-screen buttons are, which is annoying. The AI cars mount on top of you, like wild animals, and they get in your way, as well as everyone else's. There are 4 courses to play through, which are quite generic, but are actually pretty good in terms of level design. Kind of a shame that this sort of 4x4 off-roading concept was stuck on mobile, as this game would have worked far better on desktop. It's kind of interesting how each Team 6 mobile game took a different approach to mobile gameplay. A unique spin-off, a predatory monetary monster truck slop, an improved version of a PC game that felt more at home as a mobile title, and a brand new title that would have felt more at home on PC. You sick of Monster Jam games by any chance? Well, I have another one. This is Monster Jam Crush It, released in 2016 for the Switch, PS4 and Xbox One. Yes, no PC version it seems. And this is the first game that had moved away from Engine 6 to Unreal Engine. Unfortunately, however, as this game never made it onto PC, I cannot easily play it. I mean, I have a PS5, I have a Switch, but as the games have been delisted, it means having to physically travel to a different part of the city to pick the game up, which I would be willing to do, but the game does seem to play similarly to Monster Jam as big as it gets, including many, if not all, of the same game modes, so I'm happy to move on. Oh god, you know what's kind of funny? When I was playing through some of the games from this era of Team 6, I was thinking, this generic rock music, generic as I call it, really reminds me of Crash Time. And now that I'm putting this footage for the next segment, listen! I think that's from Crash Time 3. Sorry, I don't know why I said 3. From the excitement, because I knew that it was from 5. Because I've heard the song many times. Yeah, it's stock like production music, so I'm not surprised that another game has reused the music, but that's quite funny. Road Rage. Wow, what an utter mess. No, not the gameplay. I didn't even get that far in. The game booted up in windowed mode. I thought there would be a main menu to change resolution. As you know, some games only let you change resolution in the main menu and not in game. But nope, each time it kept throwing me into the beginning of the story, as there is no main menu, and no way to change resolution or graphics settings. Second issue, windowed or not, the game looked like a hot steaming pile of doo-doo. It looked so blurry. It gave me a real flashback to games on the PS4, changing from being jagged due to no anti-aliasing to being all smeary thanks to Unreal Engine 4 and its use of TAA, a technology I despise. I googled where the game's INI files were, turned off AA, and yeah, the game was being rendered at a very low resolution internally. I had to change the DPI settings and manually change the resolution to get the game running at 4K. The game still has those Unreal Engine 4 quirks though, like the textures randomly going from blurry to sharp. But hey, that's just Unreal stuff for you. Oh, when I was looking for the game's files, I noticed that there was an Oculus SDK. So I wonder if there was ever an idea to port this game to VR, or if it was just a leftover from Team 6's other VR titles. First race had you club 2 opponents in the face, which was simple enough, as one of them got stuck at the side of the building and respawned inside of the ground, which is a great way to start the game. Then I had to drive to a time trial event, which was uneventful. I find it interesting that the time of day just randomly changes at the end of the races. They didn't even bother with like a basic fade in fade out to hide it. Then there was an eliminator race, where I clubbed the fuck out of the opponents, which basically gave me an automatic win, since they were so far behind. And for the 6 laps, the challenge was not to fall asleep. I discovered that if you pop a wheelie and use the boost never ends, which is surprising that no one picked this up during beta testing. If not for the Nico's gas reference, I would have thought that the World of Ashen was purchased from the Unreal Marketplace, since it feels so bland and generic. Next up, stunts. Here is where I've learned that if you respawn, you get sent from heaven above. Okay, how was this not missed from the beta testing? Then a circuit race, where hitting the opponents with a crowbar killed both them and me, and hitting them as they respawned would result in a funny glitch in the logic, causing the opponents to respawn twice. Anyway, after crashing 50 million times because my bike decided to become unresponsive, I got my revenge and hit everyone. And then some more missions unlocked, not just the story mode ones. As you can see from this footage, I was really invested in the story of what's going on around this fake Detroit. Oh yeah, you can upgrade your bike, modify it slightly, even change your character and your weapon, though it's all superficial, so who cares. Okay, so do I have anything positive to say about this game? Well, yes actually. Once you get the other parts of the map, they can be more visually interesting. The buildings are nicely modelled, and the textures are high resolution. The graphics, once taken out of Xbox One mode, look good, and especially the lighting. But the sole reason I like Team 6 is because yes, their games are janky and low budget, but they have a charm and a soul. Road Rage does in some respects, especially compared to the later games I take a look at. But you can see the magic start to go here. After finishing writing the script, Petrolhead Entertainment told me a little factoid about Road Rage's development history. The game had a playable E3 demo back in 2016 at the Maximum Games booth. The game seemed to be more polished in some ways over the final game. Ronnie Nellis mentions that during about 75% of the completion of the game, the publisher had handed off the work to Heavy Iron Studios to finish and polish the game. And after a few months, they were unable to fulfill this request, and the game was handed off to Team 6 to finish. It cost time and money doing this. And while Ronnie did not say this outright, I reckon that due to it being the first Unreal Engine project, and due to timing constraints, the game did not come out as polished as they would have liked. Ultimately though, while Road Rage tries to be like a what if EA took Road Rash and made it 21st century, it's not that. Supersonic Racer. Okay, this technically came out in 2011. However, it was released on Steam in 2018, seemingly quite hastily, since there is still a Python script left over to compile the Wii version of the game. And there are Wii specific tools, like the banner builder, banners being the thing that you see on the Wii home screen. The ELF file was even left over, that is the executable for the Wii version. It didn't work, but I wonder what it would take to get it to boot. The Lua script and files in the documents folder caused this game Supersonic Nation, which could have been the working title for this game. This game was seemingly built on top of the Flatout Wii codebase, as there is a file called adme.txt, which has the names for the vehicles in that game. There are some other interesting files, like game map lighting, yes, this is the one, grab it, in Dutch. I also figured out that the config files that are stored in your documents folder is where you can potentially enable some debug options in this version of Engine 6, which I wish I knew before. We can't do much here, other than pressing F10 for a cinematic camera mode, and making our character huge, but still, you may have noticed I haven't spoken much of the gameplay. And that's because there really isn't much to say. It's basically fat, but in some surreal worlds, with even more surreal characters. But hey, this game has Pizza Dude, so it does win some points for that alone. There was also a game called Yakka's Kart Racing, which is basically a reskin of this game, just with different maps and characters. Super Street, the game. Well, it's a better start. We actually have settings to change the game quality. I also noticed the nearly 500MB PDB file that had been left in, as well as the Unreal Project file, which is always a good start. Once again, had to go into the INI files to turn off anti-aliasing completely and turn off DPI scaling. Well, it is what it is. Now, if you were as confused as I was, why there is a The Game at the end of Super Street, well, as it turns out, Super Street is a magazine by Motor Trend Group. Well, it was anyway. Now it's just a section within Motor Trend that has only been updated once this year. The story is a pretty simple rags to riches affair, which is always appreciated in a racing game. You get to pick your first car from the vast selection of unlicensed shitboxes, and then you have a bit of money left over for some cosmetic parts. This front bumper does not fit Mark II Golf at all. I love it. The lack of vehicle licensing means that Team 6 were able to crank up the destruction model to 11, with very fun but unrealistic damage taken within the race. There are however licensed parts, like JBL speakers, Continental tyres, and aftermarket car parts. Regarding races, the handling is incredibly unexceptional, actually quite annoying. It feels like sometimes the car has no weight, and other times it does, like the weight of it just pops in. It means that you cannot get used to the cornering or overtaking. Sometimes you'll move the stick and it feels like nothing is happening, while other times you're going to overshoot, or worse, spin out. There is also no penalty for driving off-road, as every flat-ish surface in the game is exactly the same to drive on, so if you want to massively cut corners, go for it. The AI, as far as I can tell, have been based on the average race in GTA Online. Considering tuner culture is about showing off your car mods, why are the AI so hellbent on destroying their vehicle just so they can fuck you over? No one wins then. Certainly not you, the player. Mind you, sometimes they do take each other out, which means an easy race. But the tighter the track, the less you can stay far away enough from the opponents to not have them use the pit maneuver on you like they're the American police. There are a plethora of races for you to complete, based on different sponsor types, which I don't think really makes any difference, gameplay wise, but visually looks nice I suppose. We have circuit races, time trials, sprints, eliminators and boss battles. Nothing groundbreaking, but sticking to the basics is sometimes the best way to go about things. And that's not all, because sometimes you do get one-off events, like getting to drive a much faster car, or having to get to the checkpoints by yourself without any aids. The first boss battle was with none other than Ronnie Nellis, whose car is so fast and rubber banding so great, I'd rage quit. Leaving that till later, if later comes. Later didn't come. After a certain amount of XP, you unlock crew members. As far as I can tell, they are purely visual. And oh boy, visual they are. Like yes, it's a racing game for men. Of course the crew are going to be all women, dressed inappropriately for the garage. But come on, the IT specialist has a goddamn dogs out. Who would walk around a dirty garage floor with oil spills and road gunk on it with their bare feet? Well, we know someone on the team had a foot fetish. In terms of the world and the graphics, they are improved over Road Rage. And I think this is massively helped by the location variety. At best, during the night with the lights and the post-processing changing based on the environment, the game looks gorgeous. At worst, it looks like Fortnite. Unreal Engine games that haven't been heavily modified do have that sort of look to them. Things look very cartoony, like Fortnite and GTA Definitive Edition. There is also this ugly Unreal Engine smear. No, not TAA. This one is for things in motion. could be motion blur, but I cannot remove it, since there is no option specifically for it. So again, I&I modification would be needed. Also, the popping in this game is quite bad at times, including cars spawning in randomly in front of you. And there is this weird shimmer to distant elements that should not be there with the game running at 4K. I thought it was quite cool that during one of the races, I crashed just as I was heading into the finish line, and I got an achievement for this. I thought that was a really fun gesture. Overall, there is a lot to like about this game. I really enjoyed the aspect of making my own abomination from scratch, and in that sense, this felt spiritually like Need for Speed Underground 2. But whether you'll enjoy this game depends on how much you can put up with the awful AI and the lackluster driving model. Street Outlaws, The List. This game is based on a Discovery TV show of the same name. The show follows an underground street racing scene, where drivers build heavily modified cars, usually old muscle cars topped with modern, absurd, powerful engines, and race each other illegally on public roads late at night. The hook is The List, a ranking of the fastest 10 or so drivers in the city. To get onto the list, you have to beat someone already on it in a race. Your position is constantly at risk, so there is an ongoing hierarchy. People are fighting to climb or defend. Races are organised loosely through word of mouth and cell phones. Beyond racing itself, the show spends a lot of time on the garage side. And if any of that doesn't sound right, blame Claude, as I don't care enough about reality television to give this a watch. Starting up the game? Wow, we're back to having no options. Again. Well, at least this time the game launched with the right DPI settings. Opening the games folder, I can see why. Because this is a Unity game, not Unreal Engine. Strange for Team 6 to change engines for like one game, but okay.
You got potential, kid. Murder Nova of the Street Outlaws. You ever thought about drag racing?
You ever seen a grown man naked?
I don't think I ever used the word shovelware when referring to a Team 6 game, but I have to use it here. There is just nothing of substance. You do drag races, then you do drag races again, then you do a checkpoint race, then you do drag races. You go to the scrapyard, they give you some parts to buy. Each race you win different tyres and rims for your vehicle, and paint jobs for cars you don't own. I will speak of some positives though. There is an in-depth upgrade system, and the vehicles are all very high quality. That's all I got. Christ, this game. Not only do you do the same gameplay loop, but even in the same environments, and because the game runs on Unity, with seemingly little to no custom shaders, the whole game looks like it belongs on mobile. Let's move on, please. Speed Free Grand Prix. Well, this time round, the game actually launched Steam VR, since not only is there an Oculus SDK in the game, but OpenVR too. Why? Once again, no resolution or graphics settings, had to adjust it via the I&I files. But we also get the added bonus of no exit button either, meaning that the only way to quit the game is via Alt F4. Good PC port. Don't worry however, the lack of any quality control has persisted into the gameplay too, with the floor flickering like crazy. I seriously fucking rage quit this game. This has to be the biggest piece of shit turd that Team 6 has put out. I was actually quite fond of Speed, as you might remember. It was fast, it had tight corners, it had a really satisfying learning curve with the motion controls. The destruction was hilarious. The AI could be pricks, but they were never unfair. What the fuck is this? This feels like a project a YouTuber would make in a day, like a can I recreate this game in 24 hours challenge. I am not doing a bit. I was seriously this fucking angry about this game. With maybe the exception of Manhattan Chase, I don't think any of the classic Team 6 games had made me feel this irritated and upset. The game controls more or less like Super Street. You never know how the F1 car will take the corner. If you crash, the AI will fuck you in the rear, causing you to instantly die, which causes you to respawn, which causes the fucking AI to hit you in the rear. The cycle repeats over and over and over and over and over again. This game feels so barren. Okay, fine, Speed 1 wasn't the most visually interesting, but this feels like nothing. Where is the speed? Where is the almost god mode-like ability to destroy opponents? Or is that just reserved for them to fuck you over? I am 8 pages into the script, so excuse me if I'm repeating myself, but classic Team 6 games had charm. Even Flatout 3 had charm, even if I think it was unexceptional. But maybe that's why so many YouTubers reviewed that game, while these modern Team 6 titles don't get much attention. With the exception of Taxi Chaos and Super Street, purely because media touted those games as the next Crazy Taxi and Need for Speed respectively. Classic Team 6 titles weren't the best, but they had charm. They were creative, they had a vision, and you could tell that the team had fun making them. It feels like during this point of moving to Unreal Engine, so many of the games lost their soul. With this being the final Team 6 game based on an existing IP of theirs, this is a full stop to Team 6 as we knew it. The following games don't really have anything to do with the games that I reviewed in the past. It might as well be a different dev team. In fact, Team 6 had tried to rebrand themselves at least once, if not twice. So up next, Taxi Chaos. Yeah, it's alright I suppose. No graphic settings or resolution of course. However, for once it did actually pick the right settings, i.e. 4K with no TAA, so I'll give it props. Yeah, this game tries to be Crazy Taxi. To be honest, the handling model is close to it. It's not as minute as Crazy Taxi. It's definitely simpler and more pick up and play. And there is no way to drift, but I had no problems with it. The game visually looks straight out of some Fortnite game mod though. It's stylized in a very similar way, and therefore has zero of the charm of the original title, with its late 90s attempt at photorealism. I get that's not what Team 6 was going for, but I'm not a fan of that overly cartoony look. The map of New York City reminds me of New Donk City. Take that how you will. It is tightly packed, full of detail, and has little shortcuts that you can take. Doing some research, at launch this game had very little traffic, but now in some parts of the map, it can be seemingly as populated as the real New York City. So as well as using the jump feature to access shortcuts, it's also useful to use to avoid traffic, which is mainly what I used it for. During my first playthrough, I had the same 2 lines of dialogue. I swear if I hear, "Oh, you know, once supposed to retirement, living out my days in an old folks home," I will go crazy. So there was that line, said by both male and female characters. And there was the "Go Rhinos" line, which I can't even remember if I'm saying right, because I never heard it again afterwards. That was instead replaced by the stock trader and the Hawaiian shirt guy. So yeah, the dialogue gets repetitive quickly. Which makes you wonder, why did they even bother adding the small chat? There are some optional character quests within the free roam mode, which is an additional game mode beside the arcade and pro mode. And there are hidden collectibles too. The game takes a Mario Kart world kind of approach, though Taxi Chaos was first. That is to say, yep, there is a free roam mode, there are some optional things for you to do, but without being given the motivation to do them, do you really care? Otherwise, free roam mode is basically the arcade without a timer. There are also caps that you can unlock, based on how many times you play through the game, or completing little challenges. I experienced some bugs, including the passenger sitting a good 100 centimeters away from the car, and cars spawning in on top of one another. I think as a substitute to Crazy Taxi no longer being available, well, on basically anything because of Sega being Sega, it's fine, perfectly average, just a bit boring. Because when you take the soul away from Crazy Taxi, the fast speed, the location variety, the tight controls, the real world stars and the licensed rock music, the actual shell of Crazy Taxi isn't actually all that good. I think that's why, with maybe the exception of the Simpsons Road Rage game, which I will be honest I've never played, so many Crazy Taxi knockoffs fail. Crazy Taxi is like a chocolate cake, but when you take away the flour, the eggs and the sugar, you're just left with chocolate, which is fine, but it's not a cake. Taxi Chaos feels like that. Street Outlaws 2, Winner Takes All. Well, we've gone from like a 3GB tile to over 20GB. The largest Team 6 game so far, I believe. Say it with me. No resolution or graphics settings. Nice one, lads. It's just the same game as before. Actually, no, not quite. There is more customizability, addition of team members, slightly more location variety. But ultimately, it's just one big gameplay loop of doing drag races, which I find more boring than staring out the window. Next up, NHRA Championship Drag Racing, Speed for All. It's the same damn game again. But at least this time it's more involved in the preparation of your car, instead of playing silly minigames. I am not putting any more time into this, I just don't care. NASCAR Arcade Rush. DPI is still buggered, but finally we have an option screen. Oh my lord. The game is a game that exists. For now, because of all the licensed content that will expire. I don't know, man. Conceptually it's interesting. It's NASCAR, but highly stylized. Kind of reminds me of the new Hot Wheels games. I mean look, it's been a hot minute since I played Daytona USA, but I don't remember the Daytona track having actual turns, let alone being up in the air. The track design is interesting. The fact it looks so kid-like works in the favour of the way Unreal Engine 4 renders lighting. And we have vibration support for once. I forgot my controller could vibrate. And the cars for the most part drive absolutely fine. But the game is so fucking boring. There's nothing for me to say, because there's nothing going on in the gameplay. I even tried to look at some Steam reviews to get an idea of what I could say, and it seems no one else had much to say about this game either. I actually think this game could work as an arcade title. Raw Thrills is more than happy to make the same game over and over and over again with a different coat of paint. So I think they definitely could have given this the arcade treatment. First person view with a steering wheel, a massive boost button, maybe also add a way to do an ultra boost, some jumps, and the ability to pull off tricks. Screw it, even maybe add some pickups, and boom. But that's just a distant dream. The reality is far more boring. So, that concludes this series. Unless there are any racing games that I've missed. I feel like that meme of the dude being freed from the handcuffs. I don't really have an outro, since I gave my feelings during Speed 3, while Team 6 is still around, just with a different name. It's not really Team 6 though, is it? It hasn't been since after Monster Jam, so I don't expect to be making another part talking about Taxi Chaos 2 or whatever. I'm happy to close this chapter of my life, because it really has been a big part of my life. I started this series shortly after leaving university, and since then I moved out of my parents' place. I actually moved houses twice. I had 3 different jobs. Headline has receded more than it's ever done. I mean, the craziest way to put it, when I first started this series, Team 6 had not declared bankruptcy yet. That only happened 2 years in. This series has helped me to gain a very loyal following, so I'm happy that many of you have stuck around. Here's on to the next chapter. I have a whole list of delisted games that I would love to talk about, so make sure that you're subscribed. Though frankly speaking, if you manage to make it this far into the video, chances are that you are an existing subscriber. Thank you for watching, and thank you for all of the support.